Yes, indeed. Another session of the Temple of Hip Hop. I'm in Ohio right now, and it's blazing out here. It's really hot, and I really should get a towel. But as you know, this is the Temple of Hip Hop. The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. We believe that to preserve hip hop, we got to preserve hip hoppers. Rap is something we do. Hip hop, that's something we live. We are not just doing hip hop, we are hip hop. I'm joined today by Pascal, who's filming this right now. Of course, Minister Son 1 is over here as well, handing me a towel. And GSIMONE is in the building as well. Time is here as well, my daughter, and we are in Ohio, like I said before. Well, actually, we're leaving Ohio now. We did a concert last night, a festival last night. You can look that up, see what it is. It was crazy. But we're talking about God. We're reading our God section of the Gospel of Hip Hop. And this is the shining moment where we start to get into our spirituality, where we start to really make distinctions between our hip-hop spirituality and what's being offered in the world today. No, we're not in competition with any religion, spiritual thought, none of that. In fact, when the truth is in you, you can look at any spiritual doctrine and see the truth in it. The only thing that's really separating us is culture. You know, Christians have a Christian culture. Muslims have a Islamic culture, Muslim culture. Jews, Jewish culture, Hindus, etc. have culture. The truth is the same and is universal round the globe, probably in the universe itself. But it's our culture that distinguishes us. It's language that distinguishes us. How we grew up, what our perceptions of God is, that's what distinguishes us. So here at the Temple of Hip Hop, we teach truth. We teach straight up truth, straight up facts, straight up knowledge. And this then you could find in any doctrine, in anybody's speech, in anybody's preaching. We have an urban ministry. So as you can see, like right now, as a matter of fact, I'm teaching out of a Chinchi hotel right now because I'm teaching in real time. This is not a teaching where you don't see the teacher doing his or her teachings. This, and I was almost going to say this unfortunately, but you know, I would say fortunately in that sense, but you know, I would like to be in a more relaxed state when I'm teaching, of course. But I don't always get it like this. And we teach every Sunday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So wherever I am is where the teaching is going down. So here we are. We're in Ohio. I'm off the road, off the side of the road somewhere. We did this festival. It was way out in the hills, and it's just out in the hills somewhere where you could have a bunch of people, you know, do their thing out in the suburbs somewhere. So I'm here. I'm here at this particular hotel, and I'm doing this particular lecture right now from this particular hotel I'm in right now. So this is real-time teaching. This is hip-hop. I am KRS-ONE, the first teacher, founder of the Temple of Hip Hop, and you are hip-hop's future teachers. This is what we are teaching. This is why we are here. We are training hip-hop's future teachers. And we just read through a large portion of our Gospel of Hip Hop. Read through a large portion of the Gospel. And I just want to point this out to you real quick. If you got this right here, first of all, these books are getting real rare because we're not printing them anymore, at least not from China to America. We're going to be printing these in the United States. But right now, they're out of print. Powerhouse Books, who prints this book, can't even get copies redone. So, you know, can't replenish their copy so far. Maybe within the year they'll do it, things get back in order. But as far as this book is concerned, the Gospel of Hip Hop, if you have a copy of this, you're special. You're special right now. And also a copy of the original gospel, because this is the first edition. This is Gospel of Hip Hop first edition. And as you can see, there are errors in the book. We're going over this. We're reading our gospel from page front to back, and we're picking out errors. We're changing words and inflections. We're explaining the gospel as we go. This is a rare experience, a very rare experience. If you're just joining us, you should go back and get those other lessons. Go to thetempleofhiphop.org and get those other lessons. So what we're going to do right now is, this lesson is going to be short because I am on the run. Matter of fact, let me tell you a little about what's going on this week before I start. So hip-hop's 49th birthday is this Thursday coming up, August 11th, 2022. Hip-hop turns 49. Now, you guys know that here at the Temple of Hip Hop, we've been plotting since 47, actually. When hip hop turned 47, we started talking about hip hop at 50. What is hip hop at 50? So what we're doing, obviously, coming up now is hip hop's 49th birthday. Next year will be the 50th birthday. What we're doing is we are not only celebrating hip hop's 50th birthday, in general, like in other words, round the globe. Like I said this before, I'm just reiterating it again. We're celebrating hip hop 50 years internationally. So everybody listening to me right now outside of the United States, you should be paying very close attention to what I'm about to bring up and have been bringing up regarding hip hop and its 50th anniversary, its 50th birthday. Because this is a global situation. America, yes, we will be celebrating here in the United States, and specifically in the Bronx. I'll get to that in a minute. But where is France? Or really, where is Europe? I mentioned France because Paris, you know what y'all like over there. This is what it is. But let me also mention Berlin. Let me also mention London. Let me also mention Barcelona. And then you get into bigger places like the whole of Poland and Belgium. I'm just saying, Europe, let's go. Don't sit on your ass on this. Let's rise up. Hip hop is huge in Europe, and because of Europe. It's not hip hop is huge in Europe because Europeans know nothing about hip hop. No, hip hop is huge in Europe because Europeans made it that way and have been supporting hip hop artists for over 30 years. That needs to be respected in hip hop's 50 years. Africa, you know you've been supporting and delivering rhymes, beats, breakers, this, that, and the other, artwork. Africa's really about street fashion right now. A lot of fashion coming out of Africa right now, in that sense. And you know that's part of our 9 elements that we teach. Big up to Australia, all the Aussies and the down under. You got to do this. Shout out to Zulu Nation out in Melbourne as well. You guys got the rise on this. It's hip hop's 50th year, 50th anniversary, its birthday. Of course, Indonesia, India, I ain't got to say that, Caribbean, come on now. Who am I leaving out? I mean, the globe, I'm just trying to say, the globe. You know what I'm saying? China, Japan, y'all know what it is. Canada, you know, can't forget Canada. Mexico, you know, I can't shout everybody. South America, Colombia, what? Cuba, come on, man. We all are hip hop here. And when the 50th anniversary in the year comes around, don't just sit around and let August 11th just go by. If you're true to this culture, stand up where you are. And that's where we are. We're standing up at where we are. We're here in the United States, so we're going to the Bronx, where it all started, at the place that it started, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. We're there. Shout out to Miss Gloria. She's the head of the Tenant Association. Because remember, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, the building, is a building. People live there. And, you know, it's a tenement building. People live there. They live all on the block. People work, go to school. It's a neighborhood. So we got with the Tenant Association, Miss Gloria. She calls herself Miss Gloria. Her hip-hop name is Glow Lady 3. But Miss Gloria, she opened up the building to us. The actual community center that Kool Herc actually started playing his merry-go-round mixes at. She opened up the actual community center to us. she felt the respect. I'll just put this side note on it. Those that attended Hip Hop Appreciation Week and came to 1520 Sedgwick Avenue and was taught by Grandmaster Caz at the center of where hip hop began, well, like I said, that impressed a lot of people. And so one of the people that impressed was the building manager, Miss Gloria. And so she said, anything you want to do in terms of teaching, bringing the kids through, colleges, whatever. But then there's the owner of the building, a guy named John Crotty. And John, the owner of the building itself, he was also there when we gave our Temple of Hip Hop teaching with Caz and everybody there. He was blown away, loved the knowledge, loved how we got down, and really respected the situation. That's what led to, we need to put an exhibit in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue commemorating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Because look, everybody, museums, other exhibits, everybody's starting, their 50th something. But the reason we're calling it 50 years is because of 1973, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, Kool Herc comes out, start playing at the request of his sister Cindy. So if you're discussing 50 years of hip hop, you got to start at 1520. That's why the Temple of Hip Hop was there. And so now we have 1520, we're managing that spot for a year. We're gonna put an exhibit there, permanent exhibit there, at 1520. We're announcing it this week. You're getting the announcement now, but we're announcing it this week at 1520, August 11th, 2022. This is hip hop's 49th birthday. We got a cake. Shout out to Carlos Bakery in the Bronx. We got a cake, 49 years right there, hip hop. We have light confirmations, but the people who, some people said that they were going to come through, and I almost don't want to give their names out, but I'll say it for history because we do have confirmations from their office. We'll see what happens. But the mayor of New York is supposed to stop by 1520 as well to join in on hip hop's 49th Street birthday. Mayor Eric Adams. You have also the Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. She's supposed to stop by as well, join in on that festivity. Same thing with Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is supposed to be with us as well. All of this is on their schedule. That's how they tell it. So you say it's on the schedule. But if something crazy happens in the government, then of course they got to be whisked away. But these people are supposed to be coming through. And again, this is the work of the Temple of Hip Hop. This is who's paying for all of this. This is who's organized all of this. This is who's planning for this. The event, the opening of the space, the cake, the press and publicity, everybody that's going to be there as well. We have doctors, Dr. Zizwe, obviously Professor Z, Doctor of Africana Studies, Lincoln University. He's going to be there to bring us the African connection. We also have, Dr. Kelton Edmonds, who is a history professor at the University of California at Pennsylvania, the University of California in Pennsylvania, or at Pennsylvania, or in the state of Pennsylvania. He'll be coming there as well to talk on history and the importance of documenting hip hop's history, but from a scholarly, point of view, not just we're supposed to document the history, but why? What's the point? To that. He's going to discuss that as well. So, and others. Obviously, Master Caz is there, Master Fables is there, also honoring the Crash Crew is going to be there. Reggie and the Crash Crew, we're honoring them the same day. It's a full hip hop day. Now that's just 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. That's happening this week. After we do our press conference, which will be in the morning with all of these figures I just mentioned, we cut the cake, we take a few photos, hip hop's birthday is celebrated. Then, thanks to Joseph Sanchez, we run down to Cedar Park. And there, Professor Sanchez has secured Cedar Park for us. So I'm going to be performing there with Tony Tone from the Cold Crush, and other MCs obviously will be in the building. We don't know who's going to be there, but I know I'll be there. And that's what's going to happen right there, Cedar Park in the Bronx, right there. That's the same day, August 11th, we're going to do a performance for hip hop. And keep in mind, you know, this is the difference between what we're doing and what everyone else is doing. Like I say, and don't get this like it's some kind of competition, because it's not. But a distinction has to be made, an intellectual distinction has to be made. And here's the distinction. While everyone else, the museums, other exhibits and so on, are more worried about, you know, having memorabilia, having material goods of hip hop, having the material stuff of hip hop, collecting flyers and someone's sneaker and someone's hat and a turntable and a speaker and all of this type of stuff. Now, we say this is good work and somebody should be doing that work. That's why the Universal Hip Hop Museum is there. That's why other museums are opening up. That's why that's there. They're collecting memorabilia, stuff you can come to, see the object, and get a little history on the object. We commend that work. But the Temple of Hip Hop is distinct in this way. Hip hop for us is not an object, it is a subject. And because hip hop is a subject, we're more interested in preserving the idea of hip hop than what that idea produces in the material world. It is the idea of hip hop, the actual thing itself, that we are concerned about preserving and further developing. In other words, some people will come and say, you know, they'll pick up an album and they'll say, this is hip hop. This right here is hip hop. They'll pick up Slick Rick's album, Adventures of Slick Rick. And they'll say, this is hip hop. And it is. In our teaching, it'll be lowercase hip hop, you know, this kind of thing. But you could say, this is a material example of hip hop, an album. You can go to Wild Style, pick up the movie on VHS even if you really want to thug it out. Get the VHS. This is a material item. It's an object that is preserving hip hop. It's a video cassette. It's a magazine. It's a photo. It's this, it's that. The Temple of Hip Hop is saying, wait, who made that photo? Who created the concept of wild style? And why wild style? Why not file style or child style? Why wild and why style? What is the custom, the tradition, and the heritage of hip hop? That's what we want to know. That's why we're at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, because as scholars, we want to be at the cause of our culture. We want to be at the cause of the idea. What caused hip hop to exist? What was the neighborhood? What was going on? What was our interest? What were the skills even that got us started and got us through to even have 50 years? You know, to be here 50 years, you had to overcome some stuff. You know, you had to survive something. Hip hop is 50. It survived a lot. And in its survival, it gained wisdom. We need to write that wisdom down. We need to know what that wisdom is. A lot of it's right here in the gospel of hip hop. But we got 50 years and we got another 50 years to go. Who's writing down the wisdom? Who's writing down what hip hop is learning of itself? Not so much everyone's contribution to it. You know, this is also what some of these exhibits and master classes and museums are about. You know, famous rappers, famous DJs, maybe a little bit on graffiti art, maybe a little bit on breaking, but that's about it. But it's basically, this one sold 1 million records, and so they're memorable in history. And no disrespect to those who sell millions of records, and we all want to sell millions of records, or millions of anything. But when you're talking about hip hop as culture, corporate sales, record sales, is not the documentation of heritage. How popular you were in a particular year does not exemplify what the culture was doing in the same year. So what, your record was hot? What was the culture doing? Who were you rhyming to? Well, who was your record directed to? That's who we want to know. Not the record, but who was the record speaking to? That's the culture. And who bought the record? And who approved of the record? That's the culture. Most exhibits are talking about just the record. And because it sold 1 million records, now this is going to be on the wall in the museum because it's a popular record. And this really had an impact on American society, this record. No, it didn't. The culture had an impact on the society. And that's the hidden story that no one's really talking about, because to discuss hip-hop as culture is to also discuss the empowerment of hip-hop's people. If you acknowledge us as a culture, you have to acknowledge us as a unique people. And if you acknowledge us as a unique people, you're going to have to follow some rules. You're going to have to get with some customs of these unique people. You can't just walk into their community, grab what you want, and be out with no standards. That cannot happen. So the Temple of Hip Hop is unique in this way, that we are preserving the customs, traditions, heritage, history even, skills, techniques, ways of doing things. That's what the temple is preserving. We start, obviously, if we're preserving hip-hop, we start with hip-hoppers themselves. Are we healthy? Are we in love and able to give love? Are we aware? Are we wealthy? This is also part of the larger movement as to what the union is about, a Hip Hop Alliance and all of this type of stuff. This is what this is really about. Is living this culture as a lifestyle, living the whole thing out from 7 to 70. That's what this is all about. So before we could get to political, social, economic change or advancement, we first have to deal with the inner, the spiritual, how we perceive the world in which we're in. Now, we are a temple for hip hop, so we believe on God. We perceive through God. We represent God and the gods. We represent our ancestors. We don't believe that this is all there is. This, all this brick, and this is not all there is. This comes from something. In our teachings, we refer to the inner voice, the inner ear, and the inner eye. We know we can speak without mouth, we can hear without ears, and we can see without eyes. So we know there's something else going on. This is the spirit. Not a whole bunch of mumble jumble and winged people coming out of the sky. That's not what we at. I'm sorry. If that's what you're looking for, this is the wrong place. We're not looking at white people in clouds here, okay? We're not even looking at black people in clouds. We're not looking at people floating. Okay? We're not looking at that, okay? What we're looking at is you realizing your divine nature. That's it. You realizing your divinity, your divine nature. That's what I'm here to make you aware of. Your divine nature within hip hop. Now, you have a divine nature in a lot of other cultures as well, because divinity is universal. It can be found in a plant, to an insect, based on where your consciousness is. But here, this is the only place where hip hop is acknowledged spiritually. This is the institution. It's called the Temple of Hip Hop. And we had to struggle and fight our own culture to realize the divinity within its own self. But such is the job of the philosophers. Such is the job of the true culture keepers. Such is the job of the teacher. You're not supposed to agree with everything I say. You're supposed to try to understand it. Now, it'll help if you agree. It'll speed you up. I'll tell you that. Because so many people, back in the days, KRS, what is he talking about? 20 years later, you 50 now. Now you coming up with us with a low voice. Yeah, Chris, you was trying to tell us this back in the 20s. And now the voice all low now. Now there's a hunchback now. Now it's, oh man, Chris, yeah, what you was saying, hey, you must learn. I just heard that today. Why is that? I just realized what now you 60 and you realize. You see, the Temple of Hip Hop is here so that you don't have to turn 60 to realize. You could be 20. You could be 30, 40. Realize it now. Realize it right now. You are a divine being. You seek divinity. That's why you're here. That's why you're here right now. You're seeking the truth, seeking divinity. You yourself, a lot of you listening to me, you know that hip hop is divine. You feel it. You're experiencing little miracles in your day, living out the culture of hip hop. You can confirm it for yourself. I live miracles every day. Every day. Little miracles every day. Wasn't that Luther Vandross? Little miracle every day. I don't know. This song just came in my mind now. Oh my goodness, Luther Vandross. I can't remember now. Okay, I'm stuck. But anyway, it was little miracles happen every day. And that's what we want to start with. That's what we want to start with. Well, what is it? Is it Luther Vandross?
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Little miracles.
Little miracles happen every day. That's the name of the song?
Yes.
You know, we may want to throw that on real quick. You may want to throw that on
No, it's gonna get kicked off.
in light of, no, I'm not saying we throw it on here. No, I'm saying when you're home. And shout out to Luther Vandross, excellent R&B singer, a legend in the game. If you don't know, you better recognize Luther Vandross. But this record, Little Miracles Happen Every Day, beautiful song. But it matches what we're dealing with right now. That if you can't see the miracles in your life, you don't have none. Period. You know, people always say, oh, there's no miracles. I don't see no miracles. That right there kills the miracle. You don't get the miracle you don't see. Because it's really all a head trip, really. Think to yourself. People say all the time, there ain't no miracles. There's an explanation for everything. And they might be right. But isn't it better to live a supernatural life, a mystical life, where you recognize the fortune cookies message, where you recognize the exact numbers that are around you, where you analyze your dreams? This type of life gives you somewhere else to go when the world has come to its end. When there's nothing else in the world you can do or can get, the spirit goes beyond that with another perception on the same reality. On the same reality. You could have another perception because, again, we know that all we're seeing is our mind. That's all you're seeing. The eyes are not even seeing. Like, in other words, you think you're seeing me. What's really happening is the eyes are reading light. Did you hear what I just said? The eyes, your brain even, really the eyes are not even seeing. It's your mind that is seeing. Because just look at this. If I tell you right now, my name is Larry, you may say, okay, I know that, but get back to the lesson, KRS-ONE. What do you perceive? You can only see me as KRS-ONE because that's what's in your mind. But to some other humans, my name is Daddy. It's not KRS-ONE. It has your perception of the same guy, the same guy. But are you really seeing me, or are you seeing your perception of me, your judgment of me, or your memory of me? What are you really seeing? If the same person you're calling KRS-ONE can be called Larry by his mother, Daddy by children, an idiot by enemies. I could be called anything, okay? To some people, I'm a graffiti writer. Only. So it's like, it's not about what I'm showing you. It's about what you can see. What can you see? And so we're going to start this lesson off right now with the perception of God. And this is a hardcore lesson because we're going to talk quickly about, first, let's get past the ego. Let's get past let's get past this idea that we really are spiritual. I'm spiritual. Well, the Gospel of Hip Hop asks the question, what is enlightenment? The Gospel of Hip Hop always asks this question at the beginning because these are the questions that are important to ask first. You hear what I said? These are the questions that are important to ask first. What is enlightenment? What is spirituality? Is my version of spirituality the government? Do I believe in God just because of a Christian slave owner? Or an Islamic slave owner? Or a Jewish slave owner? I got all their versions of God in my head. Why? Because they enslaved my ancestors. Where am I getting my concept of God from? Who told me about God? Who told me about these words, G-O-D? Why are these the words? This is what hip hop is asking. This is the beginning of a hip hop spiritual path. And like I said, we make distinctions here, not in competition with anyone, none of that. But we have to make a distinction here because our culture is experiencing a unique experience. Our hip hop culture is unique in the world. And so our spirituality is going to be a little unique as well. Like I said at the beginning, the truth is universal, but it is our cultures that approach this truth according to the experience of the culture. So turn your gospel now to page 608. And last week we stopped at paragraph 49. We stopped at paragraph 49. Now we highlight 47 and 48. And I just want to read 47 and 48 again, and then we're just going to go through and we're going to finish this tract out today. This is track 1 of Our God, the Great Event. Track 1. We're going to finish.
Can you teach it real quick? Is his glasses foggy?
Fogging, no, not as much as...
Right now, okay.
Yeah, they do fog up though.
Right.
It is a little humid in
Can we
here.
turn on this?
No.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Oh, you do see it?
Yeah,
Actually in the corner, right?
Yeah.
We'll turn the AC on then. All right, y'all, you're gonna have to hear a little bit of AC. We in probably the cheapest hotel room you could find in Ohio. And not because we wanna save money, but it's a distance issue. We have to stay close by the concert, or had to stay close by the concert in order for us to be able to do this. So this is just where we are, and we're getting ready to get out of here right now. So if you hear the AC blowing, that's what if you hear a rumble in the back, that's what it is. We're trying to keep my glasses from fogging up because it's so hot in here right now. Turn your gospel to page 608. I'm going to read paragraph 47, and here's why. Because I need you to study the spellings of God and God throughout this entire instrument closely. This is one of the most important pieces in our study here today, because this is where throughout the gospel we spell uppercase G-O-D is the sovereign of the universe, the mind of the universe, uppercase G-O-D. But capital G, lowercase o-d is what the sovereign mind of the universe produces. God produces God. Simple and plain. God produces God. So if you are truly of the character of God, you are being produced by God. You are an offspring of God, a child of God, a copy of God. God is a character, not a man in the sky, not some invisible thing. The only reason why God is invisible is because most people are blind. God is very visible. You just got to know how to see God. You can't see God with these two eyes, with this mind, with these foods we eat. You can't see God like that. You have to live God's life to see God. Like anything. If you really want to see it and communicate with it, you got to live its life. Otherwise, you won't see it. As a matter of fact, you won't pay attention to it. You'll see it, you'll notice it, but you won't stop to really get into it. Like a homeless person on the street. There's homeless people all over. You don't really stop. Same thing with God. God is everywhere, but we don't really stop. So you got to ask yourself what's really important. Study the spellings of God and God throughout this entire instrument closely. For us, God, capital G, lowercase o-d, is what God, capital G-O-D, creates us to be. We are in capital G-O-D, the Great Mother, the unmanifested source of all energy and matter in the universe, the great event, the inner G. For us, God, G-O, capital G, capital O, capital D, has no title, no name, or location. Capital G, lowercase o-d, God, is what we call ourselves. For only God, capital G, lowercase o-d, can come from God, capital G, capital O, capital D. This is what the hip-hop spiritual path is all about. It's about reacquainting oneself with one's own divinity, one's own divine nature. Let me say that one more time, because this is what I started out with. This is what the hip-hop spiritual path is all about. It's about reacquainting oneself with one's own divinity, one's own divine nature. For it is in one's divine nature that one actually communicates with God. In your divine nature, you communicate with God. You cannot communicate with God in a human, animal, carnal kind of way. God can communicate with you. You can receive a message. You can see a miracle. You can see a wonder. You can see a sign. But you'll never talk to God. You'll never walk like a son or a daughter with your parent. You'll always be the beggar, the homeless person on the street, asking as God walks by, please God pay my rent, please God get me a car, please God help me out of this, please God help me out of that. Those are beggars. The true child of God doesn't have to beg or ask for anything. In fact, if your mother really loves you, you ain't got to ask for nothing. Before you even ask, you are provided for. If you're the true son. And son meaning sown, S-O-N-E. This is an old lesson. That's an old lesson. We talked about God sown, S-O-N-E. And women are that as well. All people, offspring of God, all spirit, all consciousness that is the offspring of God is God's sound. God's sonic vibration, the soul sonic force. If you're part of that, this is the connection to your divinity. So, for it is in one's divine nature that one actually communicates with God, in your divine nature. God is a term for our spiritually heightened human awareness. Did you hear that? Capital G, lowercase o-d, which is what we call ourselves, is a term for our hip-hop's spiritually heightened human awareness. That's it. Don't put no wings on it. Don't put no horn on it. Don't put no white cloth and all that. Just leave that alone. Just get right here. Just get right here. God is a term for our spiritually heightened human awareness. That's it. Spiritually heightened human awareness. G-O-D. And see, this is why I say don't put no salt and no pepper on it. Don't put all that on it. Because this is where people miss God all the time. They see a picture of something crazy, like little kids with wings called cherubs. And you'll never see a cherub, ever, never. But this is what you believe in, that God is outside of your understanding, that God is outside of who you are. You see, we say God. And what do we see? Flowing robes and blonde hair. When you say God, you don't see a gorilla. That's just, the gorilla is closer to God than any of the pictures you see of God. An actual gorilla is closer to God than any of these pictures that you watch and you looking at. Any. A canary. Forget a canary, that's too beautiful, that's too pretty. A pigeon. Okay, the pigeon you see in the street, smashed in the street, or flying around. Okay, those black ravens you see flying around. That's closer to God than any church, temple, mosque, synagogue, you name it, okay? That raven in the street is God. The trees, while you driving down the highway, zipping down the highway, the trees that you're going by not even paying attention to them, that's God. That's God. So the rain comes down upon you and your windshield wipers is moving the rain away. The rain is God. The water on your windshield is God. The roach that you killed was God. The fish that you ate was God. You see, this is how our ancient ancestors looked at it. And this is what kept them in check. Everything's God. So the reverence you have for God is the reverence you have for what? Everything. Now you walk in the path. Now you walk in the path. Because the path ain't outside of you. The path is inside of you. How do you perceive you and your environment? That's God. Let's get it again. Can I say it to you one more time? God is a term for our spiritually heightened human awareness. When your human awareness is spiritually heightened, you can have the title of God. In fact, others will give it to you. You ain't got to say nothing. Others will come to you and say, God. And this is not to be mistaken for a spirituality of the self, but rather the self immersed in spirituality. Let me say it again. And this is not to be mistaken for a spirituality of the self. That you are the spirit, and it's all about you, and it's all you, and as long as you can perceive it, you, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a self immersed in spirituality. The self recognizes the spiritual realm and its place in it, and it becomes a real environment based on your own perception, like turning a channel on television. You watch CNN, you're not watching Fox News. You're watching Fox News, you're not watching MSNBC. You're watching MSNBC, you're not watching BBC. You're watching BBC, you're not watching PBS. You gotta watch these things one thing at a time unless you have multiple televisions on your wall. And even then, you still gotta watch one at a time. Same thing with spirituality. Are you tuned into the world? Or are you tuned into God? What shows, when you sit down to watch your TV, do you go to the stupid shit? Or do you go to the educational shit? What are you going to? It's your character. It's your character. So we highlight 47 and 48, and that's what that was about. Here now the read, 49. We're now starting. Know this. To communicate with God, one must be trained to do so, and it is God who does the training. Did you hear that? Know this. To communicate with God, capital G-O-D, one must be trained to do so. See, this is the problem. Everybody running around, I got God, I know God, God. Then you look at their character. You look at their life. Ain't nothing divine about it. Ain't nothing divine about that character. 1 minute they're God, next minute they're cutting somebody off in traffic. 1 minute they're God, next minute they're this. No, here we say, know this, to communicate with God, one must be trained to do so. Training. And it is God who does the training. The circumstances of life itself is what's training. There's no teacher for this. There's no mouth for this. For this level, I should say. For this level where you're communicating with God, you got to communicate with God. You can't communicate with your teacher. You can't communicate with your rabbi. You can't communicate. No, when it's time to communicate with God, you're communicating with God. There's no in-between. There's no need for a mediator. God is with you right now. What channel are you on? God's sitting with you right now, just like Fox News is sitting with you right now. But you're just not watching Fox News, you're watching HBO. God is with you right now, but maybe you're not tuned into that. You're not watching God. You're not looking for God, looking out for God. You're looking out for the bill collector, looking out for the cop, looking out for somebody to stop you from doing something. So when you look for it, it comes. Because that's what you tune to. But if you get the courage to just click, tune over to God. That's what we're reading about right here. Click over to the gospel of hip hop and see a different reality. See a different perspective on the same life. KRS, Daddy, Larry. Which is it? Even further, here's how the Buddhists do it. Here's the palm, here's the fist. When I make a fist, where did the palm go? It's still a palm. Isn't this a palm? No, you see it as a fist. The palm's still here. Hey, this is a fist. How is it? It's not a fist. It's the palm open air. No, the fist is still here. This is still here. I could slap you with this hand open, feel like a fist. If I close my hand, where did the fist go? It's still there. If I close, where did the open palm go? It's still here. I open, the fist is still here. If I say, throw your hands in the air, why do you put your hands up? The air is everywhere. If somebody says, throw your hands in the air, you should keep your hands down. Because your hands are still in the air. But you get so caught up in the slogan, throw your hands in the air. And to throw your hands in the air means throw them up here, as if air is only above you. Because we're caught up with the TV and the video and the last tape. And this is our perception of reality. Throw your hands in the air. And your hands start going up. And air is everywhere. I say, throw your hands in the air. You should be like this. Yeah. Should be like this. Shoulder shrug. Because my hands are already in the air. But I'm saying it to you like this to show you the mind. Like, if you are not in control of your own mind, you can't see God. You can't even see God. People say things like, they say, we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Kill two birds with one stone. You can hatch two birds with one egg, too. Same analogy. But why you gotta kill two birds with one stone? That's a militaristic, colonial way of looking at life. You can hatch two birds with one egg. It's the same analogy. We're gonna get two things done out of one thing. But if you got on your mind all day killing birds with stones, you can't see God. It's this little thing. Somebody in the debate, they say, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Wait, I just want to play devil's advocate. You want to advocate the devil? No, let me play God's advocate. It's the same analogy. This is the opposing view. I'm with you on your view, but this is the opposing view. Let me just hit you with it. I'm going to play God's advocate. No, we don't say that. We say, let me play devil's advocate. Let me just play devil's advocate. I'm an advocate. And what you're saying is, I'm an advocate for the devil. Then you walk into a church. This may seem silly right now, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's these little things. It's these the way you speak, the way you perceive, and it goes quick, bam, it's fast. You don't even really realize what you're saying. You don't even realize what you're saying, but you're saying it. You know, teachers, they tell their students in school, you can put this on your cheat sheet for the test. The teacher giving the test and talk about a cheat sheet. Tell the students that the way you get through this test is by cheating. Those in school know what I'm talking about. This is the point. So you got to watch your language. You got to watch these little words you say. And correct yourself. And you'll notice that when you start correcting yourself, you start seeing things. Because we only see according to our words. We only see according to our vocabulary. So you start changing that vocabulary, you're going to start seeing different things. Start hatching 2 birds with 1 egg as opposed to killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You start to see the egg hatch. You start to see opportunity. You speak it into your existence. MCing, the study and application of divine speech. Know this, to communicate with God, one must be trained to do so, and it is God who does the training. Through ordinary life experiences, God communicates to those who sincerely communicate with God. Life itself walks with you. This is part of your stolen or forgotten legacy. God is your rightful name and nature. God is what you are when you are in your right mind. But at every moment of the day, we deny this truth because of fear. God is what we are afraid of becoming, and this is why we remain trapped by the world and world circumstances. Once you are no longer afraid of God, you can become God. And when I say afraid of God, I mean that because of our past mistakes, we are afraid of approaching God because of past mistakes. We hide ourselves from God because we feel that we are not good enough or God enough to approach God. But once you realize that even at your most ignorant and immature moment, God has never left you, you realize that running from God is impossible. That what you are really running from is the ghost of your past self. Did you hear this? Let's say it one more time. Once you realize that even at your most ignorant and immature moment, God has never left you. When you realize this, you realize that running from God is impossible. That what you are really running from is the ghost of your past self, guilt. Wake up, hip hopper. God is the very event that caused you to go astray in the beginning. Wake up, hip hopper. God is the very event that caused you to go astray in the beginning. It is God who has been teaching you from before you were even born, preparing you with the events of your very life for the ministry you are now qualified to promote. For only wisdom and real life experiences possess the authority to correctly teach others. The greatest of all sins is to believe that you actually have the power to sin. That somehow there is you and God. Wake up, hip hopper. God is 1,000 times more devious than you can ever be. In fact, it is those who, because of fear and or pride, never come to God for correction, who continue to judge themselves when God is not even judging them. It is they who suffer the most in prolonged immaturity and ignorance. And even this is God's doing. This is why when you are chosen by God to finally mature in your spiritual understanding, there is no more time to waste. If you are privileged enough to be reading this paragraph right now, it means that God, not KRS, is trying to show you something about your divine nature. And this is how God teaches, through life circumstances and random events. Open your senses to God's actual movement across the material world. Pay more attention to those random events that seem to warn you, teach you, and guide you through life. This is how God speaks. We must train, prepare ourselves for direct conversations with God as gods. We must mature past the level of doing things in an attempt to find God or please God. God is not found in what we do or say. God is what we mean when we do or say. Did you hear that? I'll say it again. God is not found in what we do or say. God is what we mean when we do or say. God is what we want when we ingest drugs or overeat, indulge in pleasure, pray, sing, or complete a task. However, it may now be time to stop trying to do for God and allow God to do for you, to guide you, to heal, feed, clothe, and protect you. This is the original path towards spiritual enlightenment, to be still and know that God is God. To finally be in harmony with God, this is the seat of true joy and salvation. To communicate with God, to have a real relationship with the mind of the universe, to know God's ways. This is spiritual awareness. Reading about prophets of old without having their experiences with God can make you feel even more guilty. God does not speak English. God's word does not come from an alphabet. God's word comes directly from God to your actual life experiences. The question is, are you listening? In fact, what are you really listening to? Who and or what do you really value, God or the world? And that's a real serious question. It may sound simple right now, but that's a serious question. What do you value, God or the world? This is the difference between a reader and a believer. And this, and in a hip-hop sense, this is the difference between a believer and a perceiver. Do you believe in the essence of God, or do you perceive through the essence of God, through the existence of God? Let me hit that again. Do you believe in the existence of God, or do you perceive through the existence of God? This is the hip-hop distinction. This is a distinction. Most people believe in God. I believe that God exists, but you don't perceive through that existence. You don't see the world through God, through the existence of God's nature, through your divinity. You're not seeing the world through that divinity. You're seeing the world through your grade school education or a college degree or whatever your family put in you. That's how you see in the world. It's time to see the world the way God sees the world. And now you start really seeing the world. And really, not even seeing the world, you start seeing through the world. You start to see what it really is, what's really important in the world. You start to really pay attention to what's really important when God's eye is upon you. We must prepare ourselves for direct conversations with God as gods. We must mature past the level of doing things in an attempt to find God or please God. God is not found in what we do or say. God is what we mean when we do or say. God is what we want when we ingest drugs or overeat, indulge in pleasure, pray, sing, or complete a task. However, it now be time to stop trying to do for God and allow God to do for you. But you got to really believe that that's possible. To guide you, to heal, feed, clothe, and protect you. This is the original path towards spiritual enlightenment. To be still and know that God is God. That's the original path. To finally be in harmony with God, this is the seat of true joy and salvation. To commune with God, to have a real relationship with the mind of the universe, to know God's ways. This is spiritual awareness. Reading about the prophets of old without having their experiences with God can make you feel even more guilty. God does not speak English. God's word does not come from an alphabet. God's word comes directly from God to your actual life experiences. The question is, are you listening? In fact, what are you listening to? Who and or what do you really value, God or the world? I had to just hit you with that again. That is a very important line. This is the difference between a reader and a believer. And in a hip-hop sense, this is the difference between a believer and a perceiver. Do you believe in the existence of God, or do you perceive through the existence of God? Do you really want to know God, or do we really want to know God? Or are we simply content with following the religion of the one with the biggest bombs? What then is enlightenment? If we are not yet free to perceive God for ourselves, what kind of spiritual reality are we really living in? What is enlightenment? This question hit me one day while I was at Barnes & Noble bookstore in El Paso, Texas. I was on tour traveling on Interstate Highway 10, and I had pulled over to get some audio books for the rest of my drive into Los Angeles, California. There I happened to run into a famous graffiti writer, Scheme. Shout out to you, Scheme. You'll remember this as well. Writer Scheme from the film Wild Style. I'm sorry, from the film Style Wars, who had his family with him. Once again, this whole event was unplanned and random. After talking to Scheme, this very question jumped out at me from the front cover of a popular magazine. What is enlightenment? This is the name of a magazine too. As I reached out to pick up the magazine, I felt myself immediately answering this very question. What is enlightenment? Before my hand could even touch the magazine, I began to go through a plethora of surface answers. Enlightenment is when you become spiritually aware. Enlightenment is to have realized your spiritual nature, even your spirit reality. Enlightenment is spiritual. Enlightenment is to have achieved the truth, to unite with God. My mind continued on. Enlightenment is simply awareness, or rather, awareness. To finally get it. I picked up the magazine. While holding the magazine and standing in the same spot, I began to look around the store at all of the other book buyers and readers and began to wonder about their enlightenment. What is enlightenment? And who has really achieved it? How can you even know if someone is truly enlightened? What must they do or say or be? What must someone be to actually be enlightened? Do they have to come from India? Or from China? Or from Africa? Do they have to speak a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way? How can you really tell if or when a person is really enlightened? And suddenly I realized that even the term enlightenment may be misleading. In our modern, consumer-driven, guilt-ridden, everything glossy, glamorous, and cheaply packaged industrialized society, is true spiritual enlightenment even possible? This is what I started thinking about. In this whole world, as crazy it is spiritual enlightenment even possible here? I know we all think we spiritual. I think we all think we talking to God, and we think our religion is the best. But when you look outside your door here, I don't know that true spirituality can exist in a colonial-based society. I don't know that you can just wipe away slavery, colonialism, imperialism, and murder, and then say you spiritual. Or the land in which you live in that was stolen, somehow on that land, you could say you spiritual. I don't understand that, and neither do Native Americans and some enlightened Africans, but this is what we're dealing with. People who say, I'm enlightened. Well, what are you enlightened to? Well, what exactly is your enlightenment? What, because you speak in a soft voice, or you have a flowing robe? Or what, you shaved your head, you grew a beard? I mean, None of that is spiritual. Like this is all spiritual costuming. Well, what is it that actually makes you spiritual or spiritually enlightened? Let's read on.
62.
61. I'm hitting 61 again. I want to say that one more time.
All right, you did go there.
Let me hit 61 one more time. One more again. 61. In our modern, consumer-driven, guilt-ridden, everything glossy, glamorous, and cheaply packaged, industrialized society, is true spiritual enlightenment even possible? Even in the $10 billion enlightenment business. You know the enlightenment business is $10 billion, right? Okay. Even in the $10 billion enlightenment business, people are more likely to gravitate toward that which serves their own self-interest than the actual acquiring of truth or enlightenment. So what is enlightenment? These days, it can't have anything to do with the truth. It can't have anything to do with the truth because today's truth is too scary, or even it's too scary for even sincere truth seekers to deal with. On another level, in a society generated by mostly technology and commerce, truth may simply be useless. The spiritual idea here is, give me what I want now. That's what we live in with. Give me what I want now, and that's spiritual. God agrees with me. As I began to walk over to the cashier to purchase my copy of What is Enlightenment, I thought to myself, denial is what most people are practicing, not spirituality. Today's spirituality is rooted in mass denial, escape from guilt, and or chronic individualism. People don't just want God to themselves, they want God from themselves. Because to face the real essence of God is simply too painful for many. Their own guilt is just too intense for them. People seem to only be interested in the God that they create, who conveniently fits into their already accepted beliefs, schedules, and rules. So how can anyone truly answer the question or even pose the question of what is enlightenment if we are not willing to actually question our already made up minds and beliefs as to what enlightenment is? Like, you can't even ask the question, what is enlightenment? You already believe you know. So if you already think you know what enlightenment is, then really knowing what enlightenment is outside of your reach. Because you think you enlightened. Why? Because I go to a Buddhist temple. Because I'm in a Hindu temple. Because I'm in a church. Because I'm talking to the rabbi. Because that makes you enlightened? And enlightened to what? And where is the God that confirms your enlightenment? Where are the life experiences that confirm your enlightenment? Not just mouth. Let's look around your life. Let's see the divinity in your life. Not this talk. That's what distinguishes hip-hop from a lot of other spiritual paths where you just, belief is enough. Faith is enough. Just believe in this and you good. Okay, we're not beefing with that. We're not arguing with nobody's faith. If that's how your faith get down, that's how your faith get down. But what you pushing as faith in your religion just didn't work for us. And you know it didn't work for us. You had 100 years to see it didn't work for us. Now God speaks directly to us. Directly to our culture. Through our teachers. Through our life experiences. Through our history. Through our language. God is speaking to us. And now nobody can see God no more, right? God is with everybody except hip-hop, right? The universal, omnipresent God everywhere knows everything everywhere except hip-hop, right? Omnipotent God is everywhere except hip-hop. This is how we think. This is what's going on. And no disrespect to nobody's religion, but the truth must be spoken today on Sunday. How are you spiritual for real? What is the meaning and depth of your spirituality. This is where we start talking. That's why I said this God section gonna get real hard for a lot of people. It's gonna be hard for a lot of people. I know this. We might wind up with only 2 members left after this one, okay? Because I don't know how many people could stick around for this. Because here we're going to discuss God for real. And what's discussing God for real? We cannot discuss God without discussing justice. We cannot discuss God without discussing love, care, and not words. Show me your love. I want to see it. I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear talk. I want to see you caring and loving. I want to see it. I want to see you overcoming financial difficulty or health difficulties or family difficulties. You know, I want to see you overcome that with divine wisdom. We all get sick. Any of us can get sick at any time, especially in this filthy ass country. We all can get sick, okay? But how quick do you recover? This is the question. How quick do you bounce back? We all get broke. Money, no money around, can't do what you need to do, bills piling up. We all get broke. But when you get broke, are you still praising your God? Or are you running scared now? Oh God, no. Is your God based on how much money you got? That's the communication? What if God wants you not to pay your rent because God got something better for you? Can you stomach that? My rent's due this week. I don't have no rent. They're going to throw me out, as a matter of fact. They're at the door right now. Oh, God, help me. Is that you? Worried about every little thing, but yet praising an infinite God? Nah, this is where hip-hop, this is where we get our foot on the path for real. We're not playing games with God here. When we speak with the Native Americans because that's the soil we on right now. We give the Native Americans the respect of that. We call them Native Americans. Africans are Native Americans too. But we Africans, we claim Africa. Our Native American brothers and sisters, come on now. We give them that respect with love, with honor, and with trust and respect. We give them that. We give them that, and we stand on that. In our gospel, we read earlier about hippie being the African connection, and hop is the Hopi connection. Shout out to Red Cloud, no doubt. That's where we at. So if you're going to discuss God, you're going to discuss them Native Americans, right? Right? God everywhere, omnipresent, God everywhere except with the Native Americans, right? Right? God ain't with them, right? They right? And the land that they walk on, God ain't there either. Right? God ain't on their land, God ain't with them. God's only with you, right? You the only one with God. See, this is why I'm speaking in this way. So that we could really get serious about our spiritual path. It's time to get serious. It's time to get serious. And hip-hop is here to get serious. Hip-hop is definitely here to get serious. Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. Here we go. Here we go. Let me read 62 again. So what is enlightenment? These days it can't have anything to do with truth because today's truth is too scary for even sincere truth seekers to deal with. On another level, in a society generated by mostly technology and commerce, truth may simply be useless. The spiritual idea here is give me what I want now. I began to walk. I'm reading this again. I began to walk over to the cashier to purchase my copy of What is Enlightenment. I thought to myself, denial is what most people are practicing, not spirituality. Today's spirituality is rooted in mass denial. Mass denial. Escape from guilt. That's your spirituality. Just anything that makes me feel not guilty. And or chronic individualism. Me. That's the name of your God. Me. People don't just want God to themselves, which is some craziness. I only want God to myself. God bless America and nowhere else. I just want God to myself. Okay? They say people don't just want God to themselves, they want God from themselves. Because to face the real essence of God is simply too painful for many. Their own guilt is just too intense for them. People seem to only be interested in the God that they create, who conveniently fits into their already accepted beliefs, schedules, and rules. So how can anyone truly answer the question or even pose the question, what is enlightenment, if we are not willing to actually question our already made up minds and beliefs as to what enlightenment is? Is Muhammad Ali enlightened? Is James Brown enlightened? Is George W. Bush enlightened? What do you consider enlightenment? And I consider Muhammad Ali enlightened, by the way. But what do you consider an enlightened soul today? What do you consider an enlightened soul? Gandhi? Mother Teresa? Could President Bill Clinton be an enlightened soul? What about Tupac? Or Stan Tookie Williams? Or Howard Zinn? What do you consider enlightenment? One man's enlightenment is another man's silliness and immaturity, even evil. Back to my Native American brothers and sisters meeting these Christians. Truth is truth, and truth can come out of anyone's mouth at any time from anywhere. But in today's quest for spiritual enlightenment, the face delivering the truth is more important than the truth itself. Did you hear that? We don't want truth. We want to conform to our own reality. This is why the so-called truth-seeking groups in the United States, as an example, are not asking, and more importantly, not publishing those hard questions that actually lead to enlightenment or truth. Truth may shatter your business goals. That's why nobody want to ask no truth. Remember, spirituality is a $10 billion business. Don't nobody want to ask no truth and shatter that billion. Truth may shatter your business goals. Truth may lead you to divorce. Straight up and down. Truth may lead you to divorce or even suicide. Truth may destroy hip-hop. What are you with? The truth or hip-hop? True enlightenment may actually point to our own destruction. Listen to this. True enlightenment may actually point to our own destruction. Or maybe even a glimpse of the truth is so offensive and painful to deal with that we simply make up our own truth in which it is easier to put our faith. And actually, let me say this in terms of our faith. I'm coming up on a break, yeah? I'm coming up on a break. Yeah, we're gonna come up on a break. Let me finish this last paragraph, and we'll take our first break, and I'll come right back. But I want to say this here real quick. Or maybe even a glimpse of the truth is so offensive and painful to deal with that we simply make up our own truth in which it is easier to put our faith in. Easier to put our faith. We don't want truth. We simply want to survive a little better than we already are. Most people in search of truth today are simply in search of empowerment. You don't want truth. You want to feel better. You want to feel empowered. You want to feel like you got a power. But that may not be the truth. As I got on the cashier's line at Barnes & Noble, I began to wonder about the offensiveness of what I am suggesting. I thought to myself, what if the truth is that African Americans are truly slaves by nature and the 13th Amendment is the reason for America's financial crisis? What if God actually approves slavery? Now, I know a lot of African Americans out there saying, Chris, you crazy. Well, how can that be? But this is what the truth, this is the path of truth You have to ask the question. And even if you come up with the answer that says, no, God don't approve slavery because of this, that, and the other, if you don't ask the question, you're not going to get that answer. But now the real question is, and the real question is even deeper. The real question is, are you interested in truth, or are you interested in satisfying your own self-interest? What if the truth is that hip-hop is not a culture, and it was created by the government to put black and Latino people in a tizzy? What if that's the truth? What if we have documented evidence that that's the truth? Would you give up hip-hop? What if somebody came with documented evidence? Somehow this is irrefutable evidence. There is no God. There is no intelligence to the universe. There's nothing. What if somebody came and said that it had evidence? Would you still believe in God? This is it. I'm putting your foot on the real path. Are you interested in truth and real God? Or are you interested in your own self-interest and your own denial and guilt? Well, I'm a hip-hop's teacher. I'm a hip-hop teacher. What if God came right now and said, you ain't shit? Would you agree? If you was like, yo, this is God talking. I know it's God. And God said, you ain't no hip-hop teacher. What I need you to do is drive for Uber and teach the people in the back of that car. Forget all these lectures and all of this stuff. No, I need you to drive for Uber, and I need you to teach the people that get in the car. Would you do it? Would you do it? Is it your self-interest, or is it God's self-interest? Is it the truth you're after, or are you here to satisfy your own whatever that thing is inside you that needs to be satisfied? This is the question. This is the question. Truth may lead you to divorce or even suicide. Crazy. So, what if God actually approves of slavery? I just want to stop. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to leave you with that question, and we're going to take our first break. Okay, before I go further, let me take our first break. I'm going to leave you with this question. What if God approves of slavery? Would you immediately sign up to be a slave? Ponder this. I'll be right back. First break, y'all.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the Hip Hop Alliance. Hip Hop's first official union. We fighting for rights. Workers' rights, labor rights. Y'all know what it is. Fair wages. Let's hit 'em. Who's really speaking for the artist? Everybody knows the music industry is heartless. Knowledge reigns supreme, not what an artist on a chart is. It's about fair wages and royalties. Let me start this, spark this. It's about cultural self-reliance, corporate defiance. We got this down to a science. It's called the Hip Hop Alliance. We take you back to stop the violence. For 30 years I've been the culture's guidance. You can't deny this. I clean pupils when they open their eyelids. In a blink I teach kids to think. That's what I did and do. Reaching and pulling out the culture inside of you with the truth inside of you. No one can lie to you. It's time to unify him, her, you, and I. Do your part to save the art. Don't be a stupid guy. Front, you can try, but it's your time you waste. And we starting an alliance against corporate exploitation.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back. This is the Temple of Hip Hop. I am KRS-ONE. When we just started our break, the question was, what if God actually approves of slavery? I'm actually on page 613 of the Gospel of Hip Hop, and I'm reading from paragraph 70. And what we're talking about is real spirituality, a spirituality that may actually shatter your comfort zone, where you actually believe God is, or what you think God is, or what you think spirituality is. Real spirituality, when you dig deep and reach for it, you have to be willing to be destroyed. You have to be willing and not be destroyed like you gotta die or whatever, but your views of your perception has to change. You can't say, I want to live a spiritual life, or I am seeking truth. And you're saying, I'm seeking truth, I want to walk this spiritual path and seek this truth with the same mind that's asking for it. The same mind that doesn't have the truth is the same mind that wants the truth. So as long as you stay in the mind that wants the truth, you'll never develop the mind that has the truth. And at some point you have to go from wanting truth to actually having it. And the truth is complicated. It's not, you know, this is what it is, or A, B, C, D. That's not the truth. The truth is in life circumstances, and you got to be able to read life circumstances. Just before I finish off with 70, let me take y'all back a little bit. I want to take y'all back and highlight something, because it's gonna this is what I call the contradictory talk of the Spirit. And it's like, in one breath the Spirit says, indulge in anything, you are an infinite being. Then the Spirit says, self-discipline. The Spirit says, God is with you. Then the Spirit says, you are a self-organized being. Do for yourself. It's this language. This is not a consistent language where you could say, it's this, this, and this. Sure, in the beginning days, if you're reading a book, if you're being taught, it's this, this, and this. But when you reach this level that we're talking about here, reading life circumstances, on Monday, what was good on Monday might not be good on Tuesday. And what was good on Monday and not good on Tuesday, Wednesday could come with something completely different, but still connects you to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. This is the Spirit. Can you advance your consciousness, spread your consciousness out to include contradictory statements, but yet see the consistency in them? This is what it means. I want to take y'all back real quick. I want you to highlight something. Go back to paragraph 53. I'm going to show you something about what I'm talking about right now. Go back to 53 on page 610. Now on page 53, I'm sorry, on paragraph 53, go down to that last, almost to the end. This is what you're going to highlight. However, it may now be time to stop trying to do for God and allow God to do for you, to guide you, to heal, feed, clothe, and protect you. This is the original path towards spiritual enlightenment, to be still and know that God is God. Now that is the truth. That is spiritual truth right there. But as we read, you're going to see something that appears contradictory, and I'm going to bring it back up to you later on. I just want you to highlight that last part of the sentence there. However, it may now be time to stop trying to do for God and allow God to do for you, to guide you, to heal, feed, clothe, and protect you. This is the original path towards spiritual enlightenment, to be still and know that God is God. Now, even though that is the truth, this part about allow God to do for you, the gospel speaks about you doing for God. And we'll get into that, because what I'm talking about is the mirror effect of spirituality. What you do to the universe does to you. If you care for God, God's gonna care for you. If you don't care for God, guess what? God don't care for you. That direct care, that care that you need, that communication care. It's a mirror. So here, you do for God, but then allow God to do for you. And matter of fact, God is doing for you because you're doing for God. But I'm doing for God because God is doing for me. But I'm doing for God, so God is doing for me. It's a never-ending loop. This is reality. So I want you to first just look at this, 53, and look at that right there. Okay, hold that thought. I'm going to come back to it. Now come over here. What if God actually approves of slavery? What if this is the truth? Would black Americans faithfully and spiritually take their places in the American society as slaves, ordained by God as such? As a surface example, what if this was the truth? Would African Americans accept such a truth? Would everyone else accept such a truth? Forget African Americans. Would white folks say, yeah, God said it's real? Would Asians interact, yeah, you guys are slaves? My point here is that in today's individualistic, commercially driven societies, truth seems to be accepted based upon one's need to survive. This is what you think truth is, your need to survive. Not only must truth be useful for today's truth seeker, but if the truth points to the demise of the truth seeker in today's society, even the truth can be rejected. Let me hit you with that one more time. Not only must truth be useful for today's truth seeker, but if the truth points to the demise of the truth seeker in today's society, even the truth can be rejected. In today's world, it seems that survival is more important than truth. As another example, what if the United States is truly cursed as a nation for its crimes against the Aboriginal peoples of the Americas? Spiritually, would we, Americans, move to another country and start all over again as peasants and immigrants? Even deeper, what if Osama bin Laden is the Christ, returned to overthrow the Roman Empire, the United States, and free all of his people as promised by the Bible? Would we accept Islam as the true religion and spiritual practice of God? Even deeper than that, can we? Not just would we, can we? Like, think about that. What if somehow you figured out Islam is the way? This is it, Islam. Today, like how you are right now, could you really practice that? You're fucked then, okay? If they say, if think about this, if they say Buddhism is it, scientific fact, God fact, everybody's a fact. Buddhism is the way to go. Let's start shaving that head and let's start getting this orange, this flowing orange and yellow robe on, okay? And let's start praying and meditating and start doing everything Buddhists do. It's not even so much, will you do that if you found out that Buddhism is the truth? Would you become a Buddhist knowing it's the truth? Deeper than that, can you? Can you? The truth comes down, it's Buddhism. But you're not Asian, you're not Buddhist. You was a Christian your whole life. You was a Jew your whole life. You was a Muslim. You was an atheist your whole life, okay? Now Buddhism comes, and it's science, every political science, the banks say it's Buddha. We're not financing Christianity no more. We're financing Buddhism now. That's what it is. Not only, the question is, would you now convert to Buddhism? As the way you are right now. You're going to become a Buddhist now because you found out it is the truth. Or, deeper, not only do you want to, can you? Can you? Can you even eat what Buddhists, first of all, Buddhists don't even eat. That's a joke. But I'm saying there's a lot of fasting going on with Buddhism, okay? Can you even deal with that? Can you even deal with the lifestyle? Some Buddhists walk with brooms to sweep in front of them so they don't step on no creatures. They so trying not to kill nothing. Some Buddhists are living off air and sunlight as food. They don't eat. Is that your lifestyle? How then can we know the truth if the truth is only based on what we need to survive? This is what hip hop is asking. How can we know what spirituality is if the spirituality comes to us and we say we can't even practice that? What if the truth came out? Here it is. We all know. Here's the truth. Eat roaches and you close to God. The bigger the roach, the closer you are to God. The smaller the roach, the further away you are. We have scientific proof. We have religious proof. Somehow, at the same time, every imam, every Buddhist teach, everybody, Christian, minister, everybody at the same time woke up one morning and said, it's roaches. It's roaches. If we just eat the biggest cockroach, we're with God. Could you do it? Not even would you do it, but could you do it? You may even want to do it. The roach is in your hand, I can't get it to my mouth. I just can't. You don't have God then. Goodbye. If that was the truth, would you eat a roach? Could you conform yourself to eating roaches? A bowl of roaches. We realized that a bowl of roaches gets you closer to God. This is the new spirituality, y'all. A bowl of roaches. This is how deep the question gotta go. If you're really serious about your spirituality, challenge yourself. I can't eat roaches, so I'm fucked. No God for KRS, and I have to deal with that. I'm gonna be a godless person, okay? Now I tell you the truth, if it did come out like that, I might have to find myself eating the roach. Because I could do that. Change your mind. Now maybe at the beginning I might have to put a sauce, I might have to dip it in a sauce. I just can't eat the roach. I might have to dip it in something and get it down. But I'm gonna find my God though. I'm gonna find my God. If it means I gotta eat roaches, a bowl of roaches, I will change my consciousness to get this bowl down so I can see God. That's spirituality. What are you willing to change about yourself to meet God? Not the parts you like. Oh yeah, I can get rid of that. We'll stop eating meat. And we'll start eating a more vegetarian diet. That's too easy. Start eating roaches. In fact, John the Baptist in the Bible was eating locusts dipped in honey. He couldn't get the locusts down. I know it was horrible. But he dipped it in the honey. They said he ate locusts and honey. So you know what happened? He's getting the locusts, dipping it in the honey, and getting it down. Now why Christians are not eating locusts and honey? Saint John the Baptist, did you hear me? Saint John the Baptist, the teacher of Jesus. He ate locusts and honey. Why you ain't eating locusts and honey? We all at the church. Nah, here's what happens. You want the bread and the wine. See, because in our society, that goes down a little better, right? Bread and wine. Yeah, we could do the blood and the body of Christ. Ah, yeah. But it clearly states in the Bible that John the Baptist and possibly Jesus, when he was living with this dude, ate the same thing, locusts and honey. Can you eat a bowl of locusts? And even deeper, if you can't eat a bowl of locusts, how you Christian? How you Christian? I mean, come on, let's keep it real. Let's keep it really, really real. Saint John the Baptist ate locusts with honey. What Christian is eating locusts with honey? He saw God. He was able to recognize Christ on that dinner, on that meal. Locusts and honey living out in the day. He recognized there's the Lamb of God. I'm not worthy to tie his shoes. This man is so high in spirituality. That's what John the Baptist said of Yeshua. Now John the Baptist eating locusts. Can you eat the locusts? Well, let me tell you, KRS-ONE will bite the head off the locust and eat the bowl of roaches. I'm not going to be fucked out of God. I'm not doing that. No. If I got to eat worms, if I got to eat another human, okay, you're getting eaten. Okay, I'll put your ass in the pot. Okay, that's what it is. And the point is, here's these wild analogies. That's why I'm giving it to you like this. Because you have to question yourself. You have to say seriously, how far am I willing to go to change myself? Not the easy stuff that you can just get rid of and you good the next day. No, actual change. Like they say, they cut your hair off. And you know it took you years to grow your hair. And you say, nope, it's all coming off. That's a change. That's a change. You have to change something. Same thing with eating. I'm using the eating analogy. But you got to ask yourself, what are you really willing to change? Really? And you should have those changes when you're young. Don't wait till you're 60 and try to change. You see it, no God. You 60, somebody handed you a bowl of locusts, you're not eating that. But if you're younger, and nobody even told you it was locusts, they just had some nice thing in a pot with some rice. And they threw the rice on top, it was the thing, and you gobbled it down when you was young. You said, Mama, what's this? And she says, it's crickets. It's crickets. We fried them up and put them with the rice. You're like, this is good. You grow up eating crickets. Same thing with spiritual knowledge. Get rid of some of the bullshit early in your life. So when you get older, you already immune to it. Your habit, you already have a habit of eating locusts. You already got the habit of eating roaches. You already got the habit. Everybody else like, I can't do it. You already have it. And what am I talking about, locusts and this thing? Other people, I can't forgive. You can. I hate them. You're like, man, I'll never bring my spirit that low. Dude lying and deceiving. Yeah, I did it last week. It was me and a band of brothers. I don't need to posture like all that. I got rid of that years ago in my youth. Years ago. That's why it's best to start now. I give you this analogy because in this particular lesson, that's what we're asking. Are you really on a spiritual path, or are you really trying to satisfy your own self-interest? Your own guilt, your own sense of I want power and all of that? Or are you really on a spiritual path? You really want to know the truth. You really want to know the truth. And this is the questions that hip-hop spiritual teachers are asking. The deep question. What if the truth is that hip-hop is bullshit? That's the truth. Would you give up hip-hop? After all your work and your years and your this and your that for the truth? Then the answer is yup. In a heartbeat. That's right, the truth and God is what hip hop leads us to, because that's where it came from. You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. So many people are so wrapped up in the car they never see the driver. You notice a fly car go by, you don't look at the driver, you look at the car. The driver's always secondary. Oh, now let's see who's in the car. And if it's a tinted glass, you don't get nothing. Same situation. What are you looking at? What are you tuned into? What do you think, what do you really think enlightenment is? Some guy in a meditation pose going, Om. What do you think it is? Somebody with a white halo over their head talking in a low voice? Yes, and we must pray to God. Was that enlightenment to you? Is get your hands up right now. I'm about to spit it. I'm about to get it. I'm about to hit it. Is that spiritual? What's spiritual to you? Is it? That's spiritual. What do you consider spiritual to be? And when you dig deep into what you think it is, you're going to find that your spirituality comes from TV. You're going to find that your spirituality, if you dig deep, it's a cartoon, like the white Jesus. It's a fictitious picture. It's an image you have in your head from childhood of cherubs and men in the sky and clouds and people walking on water and all of, oh wow, and I'll never be that, so let me just be evil. I'll never be God. I'll never be that. So let me just deceive my brother, kill my sister, deceive my parents. Let me just, because I'll never be. That's how people are thinking. Because they can't reach God, they make excuses for their devil. Because you can't reach God. But it's the devil telling you you can't reach God. Wake up. God is everywhere. That's all you need to know. God is everywhere. Once you know that, you know there is no devil. You didn't hear me. God is everywhere. Once you know that, you know there is no devil. Continuing with the read. Oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. I'm actually reading this. I'm reading this because I want to make sure I went over. I breezed over the Osama bin Laden, the George Bush. I breezed over that. Because this part here is, what if the startling... Yeah, no, come on, let me bring you up here. Did I stop? I don't remember where I stopped, but I do want to go back and get this part right here.
You stopped at Canyon.
And what?
Canyon.
No,
In 73.
In 73.
Yeah.
I want to get this Osama bin Laden part again, because when I wrote this, when this was put together, Osama bin Laden was the most hated dude in the United States, and they accused him of the 9/11 attacks and all of this stuff, and but Osama bin Laden was a hero to a lot of parts of the world. Not my hero or most people in the United States, but around the world, though, especially in the Islamic world. Now, a lot of Muslims denounced him as well for his acts or what he said or whatever it was, but you cannot deny that there's another group of people that said, no, Osama bin Laden is the truth. Now, because he is the enemy of the United States and of all Americans too, because he's the enemy of Americans and the United States, you can't think of him as spiritual. And the same thing with George Bush. President George Bush, both of them, the senior and the son. Who's to say they're not spiritual? Matter of fact, let me read this. Even deeper, what if Osama bin Laden, wait a minute, right. Even deeper, what if Osama bin Laden is the Christ, returned to overthrow the Roman Empire, the United States, and free all of his people as promised by the Bible? Would we adopt Islam as the true religion and spiritual practice of God? Even deeper than that, can we? Can you? Would you follow him? Would you support him? Like if it came out, look what we're doing here, okay? If it came out that Osama bin Laden is the actual Christ returned to the earth again, would you adopt Islam as your practice? And it says, even deeper than that, can you? Would you support him? Are we as Americans willing to live this truth? I'm not quite sure. And just to be fair and balanced here, what if Christianity is truly the only way to God, and the truth is that all other religions and spiritual thought is indeed false? Knowing this to be the truth, would Muslims convert to Christianity? Would Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Satanists, and witches give up that which is comfortable and safe for them to convert to Christianity? Again, I'm not quite sure about this one, about this. What if the startling truth is that President George W. Bush is God's victorious crusader, sent to bring even more freedom, justice, and equality to the world? What if the truth is that the United States is the world's police force ordained by the true God of all the universes? Would we stop protesting the invasion of Iraq and America's failed foreign policy? I don't know. But what I do know is that we want what is convenient to us as individuals, and this is the truth, our truth. The truth is that many are not interested in truth or enlightenment. Many simply want to survive by any comfortable means necessary. We are not interested in whether or not the Vatican is the true central home of the body of Christ. If we don't like the policies or conduct of the Catholic priesthood, we simply quit the religion. Even criticize and debate these holy fathers. It doesn't matter what enlightenment is or isn't. The real answer as to what is enlightenment is that enlightenment is whatever spiritual knowledge I am comfortable with. See? Enlightenment is knowledge that confirms my survival and comfort. And this is especially true in the United States when someone like Osama bin Laden may never be on the cover of the magazine What is Enlightenment, even though he may be the spiritual hero of many in the Muslim world, even the Christian world. Islam is the spiritual practice of millions of people around the world, but millions of others refuse to see the truth in its ways and principles. How can this be? What if the truth is that all women should dress as Muslim women do, in full headdress and clothing down to their feet, exposing as little as possible of their flesh in public? Would American and European women do the same? I don't think so. Such a practice is simply not comfortable for them. And this is the point where if God is not comfortable or convenient to us, we simply disregard God. It seems that the force that makes us free is the same force that enslaves us, meaning that freedom seems to foster a feeling of do what you want to do, not what you have to do. Well, finally I was next on line to be served by the cashier, and the truth hit me again. We are only willing to follow that which is fun and safe for us to follow. We are only willing to support that which immediately supports us. As American spiritualists, plagued by our own chronic state of guilt, fear, and denial and false history, we can never know that which we never had. In our present spiritual state, we will probably never know God or true spiritual living simply because we never knew God or true spiritual living from the perspectives of others. Historically, we have created our own God according to our own commerce laws, and anything that interferes with this system of thought is indeed criminal. And suddenly, I gained enlightenment. Next, please. The cashier called out as I pulled out my $7.50 to purchase my copy of What is Enlightenment? The truth hit me again. What we call spiritual living is simply our own seeking to be accepted by whatever routine is powerful enough to sustain us individually and make us comfortable and mentally secure. That is the essence of American spirituality today. If the guy with the gun is Christian, then so am I. That is today's enlightenment. This works for us because this is what's in power. Look at this. We are not actually spending our lives seeking God. We are spending our lives staying out of the violent way of our oppressors, which includes pledging our allegiances to their religions so that we are not killed, jailed, or rendered unemployed. That's what's going on. American enlightenment today seems to begin with what you are willing to accept as valuable insight, and valuable is usually placed upon personal security. It has nothing to do with what is true or what is real. Today's spiritual learning has more to do with who we are willing to accept as credible, and credibility is based upon material needs and political results. Most people don't approach their spiritual practice as a child or as a tabula rasa, blank tablet. Most people approach their spiritual life looking to satisfy their material needs. They want security. They don't really want to become a new being, to mature. They want to strengthen who they already are with a newer version of what they already know, or with a newer version of what they already know. Hip-hop's spiritual life cannot be about this kind of denial. As seekers of truth, we must be seekers of truth, not just seekers of political empowerment and or financial security. Yes, we are advocates of hip-hop's empowerment and security. We understand the importance of such material conditions, but let's get our priorities straight. As a temple for the advancement and preservation of hip-hop, we advocate the seeking of that mysterious God force that has guided and protected us thus far. We're going to highlight now 86 and 87, and this is going to conclude track 1. We're highlighting 86 and 87, the whole of 86 and the whole of 87. And also, the whole of 86 and the whole of 87 is connected to paragraph 53. We went back to paragraph 53 and we highlight this part down here. However, it may now be time to stop trying to do for God and allow God to do for you, to guide you, to heal, feed, clothe, and protect you. This is the original path towards spiritual enlightenment, to be still and know that God is God. Now look at this. In the same language, we are interested in the truth of our being as hip-hoppers. We are seeking the face of God. We are ready to reconcile with our God and live for the comfort of our God. Yes, we can ease God's burdens. Yes, we can take care of God. Don't you think it's about time? Let's stop asking God to solve our problems and begin solving God's problems, beginning with our own immaturity and disobedience to God. That's God's problem. Our immaturity and disobedience. You can solve God's problem. Imagine, you can solve the problem of the universe by being obedient to it. Yes, we are advocates of hip-hop's empowerment and security. We understand the importance of such a material. I read that. I'll just keep going. But let's get our priorities straight. As a temple for the advancement and preservation of hip-hop, we advocate the seeking of that mysterious God force that has guided us and protected us thus far. We are interested in the truth of our being as hip-hoppers. We are seeking the face of God. We are ready to reconcile with our God and live for the comfort of our God. Yes, we can ease God's burdens. Yes, we can take care of God. Don't you think it's about time? Let's stop asking God to solve our problems and begin solving God's problems. That's different from what was just said. Beginning with our own immaturity and disobedience to God. This is the uniqueness of hip-hop spiritual practices. And again, when we're explaining something, we highlight it. Look at it. This is the uniqueness of hip-hop spiritual practices. It is the same concept delivered by President John F. Kennedy. Ask not what God can do for you, ask instead what you can do for God. That's a direct contradiction to what I just said. Or is it? Expand your consciousness. You do for God, God does for you, so you can do for God, so God can do for you, so you can do for God, so God can do for you. That's the relationship. Return to God the care, cultivation, and protection that God has shown us. This is not about how much money you have or how politically powerful you are or even how spiritually enlightened you may be. The question here is, how well do you care for God? And that's going to conclude track 1 of this the 16th Overstanding Our God, the Great Event. This is going to conclude that reading. I want you to understand what this reading was all about. We're beginning to talk about our relationship to God, our relationship to divinity. We started out talking about We recognize God, the sovereign mind of the universe. We recognize that. We recognize our ancestors as the gods. And we recognize ourselves as the offspring of these. This is why we call ourselves God. We greet each other as gods. We greet each other as divinity, because that's where we come from. That's what the character you have is, the divine character. You come from that place. And so we greet our brothers and sisters based on the place they come from. If you come from that bum place, that's what you're going to be called. If you come from that thief place, that's what you're going to be called. If you come from that murderer, that liar place, that's what you're going to be called. You coming from that hoe place, that pimp place, that's what you're going to be called. And called in the universe. It's based on your character. But you come from that God place, you come from that divine place, that's what you're going to be called. Because that's your character, that's where you come from. So I got to get out of here. I'm tired of this hotel already. I'm out of here. I'm going to get down. We're doing our whole week. I told you what the week was about. We're celebrating hip-hop's 49th birthday this week. We'll be at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, celebrating hip-hop's birthday August 11th, 2022. We're cutting a big cake. We're having a great time. City officials and professors and hip-hoppers and everybody's coming through. And we're going to do, even some temple members, some of y'all who's flying out, good looking, we'll meet. I'll see you there. Those who are coming out as well. On a side note, we're also meeting with the Teamsters this week. Union work on the other side. We're meeting with the Teamsters, and so we're going to go talk to them, see what kind of support we can get and give actually to the Teamsters, from the Teamsters, like that. Another union, huge union too, the Teamsters. They do a lot of work, but we're going for knowledge and for support. So there's that as and off California, off to California. But I'll catch up with you when the week goes by. We'll catch up. Probably next week. We'll probably, well, I don't know for sure. We'll probably skip our read because I'm going to California. So we'll probably skip that Sunday, probably have a special presentation, and then I'll catch up with you the other Sunday after that. We'll see what happens. You'll see the notes. You'll see what happens. But most likely, because I'm traveling to California, we're probably going to skip next week's read, put a special presentation on, and I'll catch up with you the following Sunday. Shout out to MC Light as well. While I'm in California, I'll be recording MC Light. She's going to narrate Hip Hop 50 Years. She's going to narrate that for us. We're going to go to Cali and get that as well. So that's the week for me. And then I'm back in Washington, D.C., doing a show there. Got some other stuff in Philadelphia. Shout out to Lady B. We'll be rocking Philly as well, doing our thing. That's it, y'all. It's called the Temple of Hip Hop. I am KRS-ONE, and of course, rap is something we do. Hip hop is something we live, and this is the Temple of Hip Hop. Every Sunday, 12 o'clock, we get down just like this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, special thanks to all of the temple members that stay with their gospel through these times and are really studying what this is all about. Your life is changing before your very eyes, and you'll see as the future rolls out, as you live this character out, how wonderful it actually is. See you next week.